Hey everybody, Elsie Rosie here, and welcome back to the O Ship Show. So in today's episode, Golden is finally going to find what he's been looking for. With that said, let's dive in.
Previously on The Lost Golden Boy. "There you are," he called to the navy top hat, which had somehow landed before a door that Golden hadn't noticed before. He slid down his stage and landed, gracefully you could say, on the checkerboard floor. He skipped over to his top hat and slid down before it. Finally, he had found one of the things that he had lost. He sat down and reached for his hat, checking to see if there were any damages, and finding none. "How did you get over here?" he asked, giving his head a little shake. He was about as far away from the stage as he could get from over here. In the room that he was in, he was on the opposite end, away from the exit. Due to the bright lights, this corner had been completely covered in shadow. So Golden just didn't notice it. He lifted his hat in his lap and slipped the bow tie back inside. Right as he was about to place it back on his head, he froze. He noticed a torn-up blue poster that came into his line of sight. "Huh? What's this?" he asked. He hadn't checked this corner as closely as the others. Consumed by his own curiosity, Goldie placed his top hat behind his back and slid closer to the door. He held the piece of paper up to his gaze. Only in focus he could see... "A poster!" he asked. He stood up and held the two pieces of paper together, seeing a faded poster of Goldie singing from way long ago. He let the pieces fall back down, which revealed a vague yet strangely familiar shape in the wall. Golden rose to his feet, his paws raised up to the hole, tracing around the edges of the unplanned gap in the wood. When he peeked inside it, it was honestly too dark to see. A hole in the wall. How did that happen? Golden's paws traced over the edges once again. He noticed how the top had a spot that was narrow, almost like a... Then a light switched off and was flicked in his mind. His paws snapped over his mouth, while Chica's voice was running through his mind. "Freddie and Bonnie threw my cupcake into the wall. Now there's a hole in one, and my cupcake is gone!" "Oh!" he gasped. "The cupcake must be inside!" That would explain the hole in the wall, and would make more sense as to why he hadn't been able to find the cupcake from the start. But how did the cupcake break through a wall? The walls were thin, but they weren't that thin, right? Golden blinked a couple of times and then searched, and for what he learned was not a wall at all. For you see, walls don't usually have doorknobs. A doorknob. Well, that's helpful. The poster must have been hiding this, but why would someone put a piece of paper over a doorknob? Well, that's a mystery for another day. For now, he had to get Chica's cupcake back. Golden grabbed the handle and pulled. He felt a large amount of dust. He shook, and then turned the knob. His ears flattened against his head. The knob didn't budge. The door was locked. Whatever was in this back room must be very important. Someone hid it with a lock and key and a poster in an abandoned stage room. It's locked. Golden's eyebrows twitched. His eyes narrowed to a slit. His lips pursed and a deep growl rumbled in his chest and crawling up to his throat. He did not enjoy locked doors, especially when he was dealing with finding someone that he had lost. Golden closed his eyes and let out a huff. He snapped his eyes open and kicked his foot out. With a crack, the door was opened wide into the mysterious, now unlocked room. He lifted his arms up in the air and cheered, "No door can stop me!" With his eyes squeezed shut, he pumped the air with his paws. Well. This whisper snapped Golden out of his brief moment of pride. He felt his cheeks burn up with embarrassment. He placed his paws over his muzzle to hide his flustered face. Someone saw that? That someone was actually two someones. One was the missing Cupcake, whose candle had shot up in surprise at seeing Golden Freddy. Cupcake was being held by the only other occupant in this little room. The creature's long ears had perked up at seeing Golden, and had placed the Cupcake down on his lap, but kept his paws around the child. A faded pair of yellow paws. Golden's eyes widened slowly as they traced up, looking to the owner of those fading paws. There were patches torn away by an unknown source, and other patches turned completely gray from either age or isolation, or maybe both. But that smile and those eyes, they had remained the same. Golden found his chest constrict, then expand without permission. It couldn't be. After all this time, it couldn't be. Is that my little Goldie I see? Spring quirked an eyebrow up, with his lips in that sweet little smile. He leaned forward, but was careful not to disturb the little Cupcake in his lap. Spring's eyes carefully looked over Golden, checking to see if he was okay. He could see Golden had begun to shake like a rattlesnake. His eyes flickered up back to Golden's ears. Huh, you usually can't see those too well. You seem to have lost your hat, he chuckled. Cupcake glanced up at his new friend and then looked over at the smaller yellow one. Why were they both shaking? Had he missed something? Did these two know each other? Can it be? Golden's voice was hardly above a whisper. He couldn't believe his eyes. Was this? His ears puffed up and then flattened against his head. Spring gave Cupcake a gentle squeeze and then slowly slid the Cupcake behind him. This was a moment that Spring only wanted between him and Golden. He didn't want to scare him away. The door was open now, and Golden had found him. Spring was barely keeping his voice steady. He was so excited. But he had to, for both his and Golden's sakes. That's me. I'm just a bit roughened up is all. But I'm still the same old me. Spring spread his arms out, a soft creak coming out from his aging joints. I'm still Spring, or, well, Springtrap, as Purple calls me. He felt a shot of anxiety snap through his heart. But before he could ponder on that building fear, he had a lap full of his best friend. Golden had ran up to Spring and crashed right into his chest. He buried his face into Spring's fluff, his arms hooking around his waist and squeezing him so tight that Spring wouldn't have a chance to run away. Spring! Spring found his eyes shooting open, his mouth parted. He then squeezed his eyes shut and encased Golden in his arms. Having Golden this close fulfilled his body with a sense of joy that he had been missing since he had been trapped in here. He nuzzled his nose into Golden's soft fur. Golden Freddy. His words came out as a sigh of relief. Finally feeling complete once again. Cupcake was watching this display of affection with a soft tilt of his candle. Then it perked back up. Wait a minute! Chip, he asked. Did these two yellow things like each other? Were they a couple? Cupcake found little hearts popping out of his head at the idea, his eyes flickering down to Golden as he saw Golden lean back. Golden had tears in his eyes. You disappeared without even saying goodbye. You just vanished. Spring, I thought I'd never see you again. 30 years of pent-up rage, sadness, and guilt were flooding out. It was a lot to process at once. Golden's eyes darted from left to right, only pausing to look at Spring. His eyes began to well up with tears. It was all just so much, too much. It didn't help that Spring had tears in his eyes as well. Cupcake had begun to shake. "Oh." Golden shook his head from left to right, his ears flapping back and forth. He thrusted his head forward, his paws dragging against Spring's forearms. Spring's arms tightened around him. I thought I lost you forever." Spring felt his eyes snap open at Golden's words. Even in all of his time locked up here, he had never fallen that far to believe that he would never see his friend again. He leaned forward and pressed a kiss to Golden's forehead. He would never allow Golden to feel this lonely ever again. This gentle kiss, this little action, made the little golden bear pause. His paws slid down to Spring's chest. He blinked softly and tilted his head up to look up at Spring. They didn't do that when they used to perform together, at least not often. Spring had that gentle smile back on his face. "I'll never leave you again," he promised, giving Golden a soft squeeze to confirm his promise, one that he vowed that he would never, ever break. He would make sure that it would be his goal to never see Golden this scared ever again. You promise?" Golden asked. Could Spring even keep this promise? Spring nodded his head and pulled Golden back into his chest, snuggling into the little golden bear. "I promise, Goldie." Usually that old nickname that Golden had once hated. But now, hearing it from Spring, he found that that's all he wanted to hear. "Spring!" He snuggled in closer and squeezed his eyes shut, his cheeks flushing so brightly he looked just like Spring's old bow tie. While this was all happening, Cupcake was losing his mind, because all he wanted was for these two to kiss already. He was jumping up and down with tears out of his eyes of how cute they were being. But they still hadn't kissed yet. When are they gonna kiss? I'm waiting!
Hey guys, so, oh my gosh, thank everything in the universe, they are finally back together. I was like, this is getting really emo. When is Golden gonna find his boy? Also, Cupcake was me when I was first writing this. I'm like, I'm mildly confused. I love it. I love it. You guys, it's really been fun to go back to his comic. We are not done with it yet. There's still more going on. There's still more stories. And guys, I actually had to say the big reason why I'm recording this is, at least right now, is that I am actually leaving. So I am still going to be on YouTube, but this background, this beautifulness, is going to be gone. I am moving back to school to start my senior year. So yeah, this is my last recording video of what we're doing here. So guys, next time we will be back at my new studio and we will get started with some more fun stuff. So I will see you guys then, and tune in next time for our next Oh Ship Show. I'll see you guys soon. Bye!